Hello. It's working, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
It's audio, some audio, yeah. And only one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You do it again.
Yeah.
Evening time. You are better.
Okay. So I mean, this is a Sutra. So
So, hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Anybody can answer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? You say yes?
Okay.
Okay. So, the Maggie, please, could you invite Karambuche to teach? Did Shashamir? Okay, so please now, everybody enter into your own channel, that whatever the language you record, as yesterday I introduced, go into interpretation and you can choose your own language, whatever needed. So now we will going to begin, and first we will going to pay homage. So prostrate, you can do this from your own place to the Khenpo, prostration 3 times. So Anna, could you share please on the screen the Manjushri prayer? So we'll do prayer to Manjushri together, and imagine that Manjushri is on the crown and granting the blessing of intelligence or the wisdom, so we can understand better all this teaching, and then we can also implant all those meaning and words as well. So make it invocation in this way towards Manjushri while reciting this prayer to Manjushri. Lamandang gumbo jamba yangla chansa lo kange londe temyen tenda nyedara nanda rasa jinyen dengen jishin zije nije tukar lekpam zen kanda sik tsundara mari mentum dunga jisre rozo Pujin darze yenlan tuju yamden Duduran chendro nyemo nyeno leje chado tunze je mare mense donga nyuku jinyen chenze ralje nam dene daje sachu dar yenden lezo jase tuwe ku choda chunyen chenze tale yang lan de Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara
Marabadana
Bhajana
Deva
Deva Mara Bhajana
Marabadana
Deva Mara
Deva
Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana
Marabadana Deva
Mara
Marabadana
Bhajana Deva Mara 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 Bhajana Deva Mara
Marabadana
Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara
Deva
Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Omara Bhajana Deva Mara
Marabadana
Bhajana Deva
Deva
Mara Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Omara Bhajana Deva Mara 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 Bhajana Deva Mara
Marabadana
Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Deva Mara Bhajana Omara Bhajana Deva Mara 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 Bhajana Omara Bhajana Deva Zeten Chichi Chenra Veserenchi Dale Demo Membaraza Kadan Denje Shunglo Tobai Lodren Pobe No Kandu Soen Zenje Nanje Zamba Da Loye Jeda Jeda Chejon Demon Debai Chiji Korlo Kordo So
Tuzonje dan je ngo rida jingor jan je ja da ga den zong men ga song je je ja be xia je do de ma me ba la ngo ye ra do de de go song ge ba jin be go ni chang za ye xia song je wo da ye san je dan je 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 jin je la xia wa ne za ra dan je do do za wa jin be go ne je so zong za do so gong ge ja song da ye men ngo ge san zong ben dong da yi chen be se o sen du sa yin do ge me ke de je chu tu jin da ma ke ne je ren ji de song je gong Tombe magabe gabe deri dale yin zoro shong yin zoro ne pemi tombe tere jari na durong yin len jiru tete peche yin sumba pe manju ne dale yin zoro shong jita jiki tengi zibi jini jingo rab je yin do kin tamo base lu lu kin nyen do churu kuta ike duwa me pe chun ka lan zeba kong Jamba yana pe mo jire kene kewe zo ke che yi do pe ma kabon zumbi ka li song zi tong ki tawa chi me zelo de cho tsawe Yongjian agi bame gale zo ngambolo ro ayan dewa dan tome nye chonglo jeje da chirung ka nani baos zani jenjo nanje dai chong ma sengi kongri pime sindi lomi tsozi ke zo chong jambi ba chuti kwenye pa rongzong jeje zombe jajo ji kongre de garan ji nibingo yende kunjo gawe che zato nibida zi pipi nanjo Tumi waze kyache dayi shong shija kujin rola jitsi tiri tumi waze yon tu tu tenzo salon jinan ki nanjo jimi limbe kyache dayi shong chitar jaye sebo xewa la nunda tubi wancho xewa ri song banchi do nga rondo jimi che chan be jajo ji ritang jamba kine chilabli gombi longli popi techi to lo zo chenzo jansi nga wanshi me bam jambe anje dai shong kong da la ri pa la ba da du ji den je me nga ji de so la ba ta ong gu ji la ngo ji la ma nam je dai shong yin de song je kan da nyam na yong ka de song je kan la pi ge ta la mi sha la song ne lu do bar je wa jin je lo kong da jo ji dong gen ji den na de ge la mar ji ba kong so da de den be je je jam be Semban deba danjen de shi lai ge da le ne ji ge mu da na mi ge na da lo ge ji da ge ji tam ba tam ji ge do che jan te ju ji ma ju do na ka da nya bi sen che tam ji ji dan do ta du den ji da wa la na me ba yong da ba zo bi song ji ji kong mo re go cha la da ni ji bi ngo bar ji wa nya bi sam ba chong chu chu do tu shi ba da ji de sem ba na wa shu
Please listen to this teaching by giving rise to the mind of the bodhicitta, thinking that I am going to listen to this teaching for the sake of all sentient beings equal to the space and in order for all of them to lead into the complete state of enlightenment.
kaan sambra chewe dambi che che rinpa ne ane ka pa pa tseni mi bi chun kor teni ki gondan chi ki sawar che pa shara chi paro to chi mi nimbo teni shuwa chi bi kaw res
And the topic of today's teaching is the Heart Sutra that comes from the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, and it's about the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra.
ane da ka pa pa tseni mi bi chun kor shara chi paro to chi ba de la ya 안에 제왕공도 제나 안에 제린 뒤숨 드니 용이어레스.
Generally speaking, about this second turning of wheel of Dharma, about this Prajnaparamita Sutra, we have three categories: the vast level and the middling level of teaching, and the shorter version of this teaching of the perfection of wisdom.
아니 나 헤라지 바로도 침바 드니 제바 telaya 드니 제비 디세네 드니 아니 딘라야 디비 제바 디비 디바사나고 아니 디바 telaya 디비 제바 디비 디사나고 드니게 아니 르마몽부지 아니 손제게 송여 바레스.
And within each of these categories, now we have these three levels again. The vast has the vast of middle, vast of the shorter version, and in same way, like in the middle level and the shorter version too. Like that, we have so many different versions of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras.
네, 나 단단하죠. 그 예주여 봤더라. 아니 제바텔라 제밤 봄 세이드 가수가라 아니 효로감 봄이야 봐 아니 다당아서 베익 돌리고 반나버잖아 베 쫑이야 봐 어떻게 지시해요레스 데다 제비기 디바이 봐 간지 책이요레스.
And the one that we have right now in the Tibetan Buddhism is the vast one is we call it Bum, which means 100,000, because it contains 100,000 shlokas or the verses in it. And that's actually, that's not the vast of vast, that's the shorter form of the vast ones. And in the Tibetan version right now, we have this in 12 volumes.
아니 다 가르쳐고래 딘피 아니 그 온도 제고데 가솔 단다 제 티제 니트세고데 가솔라 내가 조금 민다야데 니트라고 해라 이나야 아니 쇼로가 티니당 마동야바 어떻게 그 배고한데 전에 배 이다부터 내야바지게 아니 내가 저 단단 제제야바레스.
And the middle level that we have right now, although we call it 20,000, actually it is 25,000 verses, and it is still available in the Tibetan version, and it has 4 volumes.
아니 다 디바라 단 디비 제바 디비디바 세고데 아니 디비게 제바 나버텔라 제동바세드 가서 쇼로가 동야바 어떻게 그 지체바 되니 지 단나가 좀 제제야바 되니 지레스.
And the shorter version, as mentioned earlier, this the shorter version also 3 levels. The vast level is we call it Gyetongpa, which is the 8,000 verses, and we have it in 1 volume right now available in Tibetan language.
다 되니게 다 mambo 예피지 노니 단당 아조게 단다 까토게 쇼자게 샤랍님보 데 아니 디비게 디바 이마트니 셰기요레스.
And among these various versions of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, the present text, the Heart Sutra, is considered to be the shorter of the shorter version.
다티 단다 셰진게 네게 단다 융텐데 자체모 띵사바 mambo지 여바 딜라야 아니 리다보 체소와이나 아니 유제 아니 샤랍 그 차등에 지다 디 유도 주비게 네루 똥비게 차등바 니소 체초거레스.
If we categorize all different versions of these different texts of the Sutra, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, we can divide it into 2. One, you can about the subject, which is the inner subject, that's the mind, which shows about the wisdom, and the outer phenomena, the reality of outer phenomena, which is the emptiness. So we can categorize that into 2, wisdom and emptiness.
다티지디가 술에 tanda nga zo ki kharab ni bote ngo so ten te la tong bi ki cha yut ni lu tong ba ki cha de tan ni di ki hu la yut yo di ka su yu chen de yo ba nge un di ka su la ane de to bi ki chan ba yu chen ki cha lam ke cha de ten ba de chi ki go res.
And this shorter version, this Heart Sutra, in explicitly in words, it talks about the outer phenomena, the emptiness, and implicitly or indirectly, it also talks about the wisdom, because when there is emptiness outside, there should be a mind that realizes that emptiness, which is the wisdom portion. So that also kind of shows that in indirectly kind of.
Tadini ke kharab ni bon dik on to chesama ina ya ane ko leja ke thone ane laya ane jeba ji da diba ani tandan jeju yoba de chadi yores.
The original version of this Heart Sutra in Sanskrit language is also available right now. We have that in two different versions. One is a little bit more in detail and one in a little shorter version. So two versions of the original Sanskrit is still available.
Tadini ke jeba da diba sayate joja kono ngani ane kharab ni botela chaba se shirachi yo mares.
And these two versions in Sanskrit, the actual body of the text, it doesn't really differ between these two.
Inaya tati ke nula ane ngondo ko tsotola len ye pison chopa na te yome ta ane jula ane sonje ke tinju zeba ta iran zeba la so ba ke ju ke dan te zo yome ke cheba ke thone ni jedi do bachi monyu do bachi chai mo yor ma to jeja ngo kron la je di city state ma da re ma to tanda che ko thole ne yores.
The only difference between these two versions in Sanskrit is the opening and the closing remarks of the sutra, where in the openings, where they mentions about the introductory kind of way it was taught and how it was taught, and in the end, where the Buddha, the praises the teachings or the discussions between the Avalokiteshvara and Shariputra. So these two are the only differences. The actual main text doesn't differ much. Maybe one or two words may differ there, but in actuality, it doesn't much differ in the actual body of the text.
Tatrike leja tole yubate ane tirap somba yang sene ane thanseng ko kabla ane janala ya ane jurchene thanseng ke jojo te tanda konde shibana yi diba ke te joada bachi chadiyores.
And from this original Sanskrit, the Tangsen, the Chinese monk, he translated that into Chinese language around 3rd century. And that probably is from the shorter version of the two.
Tatina yicheni ane jeba ke chadaya janale jo rikashi yosares.
And in the same way, the longer version has also seems to be few different translations into the Chinese language.
Ane peola ta sharani bote ngazo ke nganju ke kamni ane joga batne chadiyores. Tate ane jedi ni dejak yul thola yubi ke jedi ni ebnoni jebi ke rimate chadiyores.
And in the Tibetan, it was translated during the early translation periods in Tibet. And among the two versions in this original Sanskrit, the more detailed version, that's the one that has been translated into Tibetan language.
Ta tindeke ta yunte shwa cheba la ane tsangi ta da ane yung ta ni yobinoni ta tombo tsangi ta de chagores.
And so this text is the topic of our today's teaching. And in order to explain this one, we first go through the meaning of the title of the text and then into the actual text.
Tadila Tomden de ma sharaji paro de chimi nimbo shichawa yuso se. Shugaris.
And in Tibetan, the title reads the Chamden de Mashiraji Paru de Chimpu Nyingbo, and in the English it is translated as the essence of transcendent wisdom known as the Heart Sutra.
Tati chidika solo Tomden de ma sayate ta Tom sewate Tomden de sayate solo koguyorosena Sanjela ta koguyoris.
So we have this word Chamden de in Tibetan here, and I think that's not really actually translated into English, and in the Sanskrit word that it should be as Bhagavati. So what that refers to the Buddha, the Shakyamuni Buddha, to Buddha. So yeah.
Tati chidika solo Tom sewate ane duji Tom bichane ane Tom selagoyoris. Duji te ane nyamo pi duita chidaka duita lai pi duita ane pumpi du sene teneke du number ye hegoyoris.
And in this word Chamden de, there are 3 letters or 3 words there in that Chamden de. In one word there are 3 there. And the first one, Chom, the meaning of that is being explained here. Chom means to destroy. And here that destroy refers to the 4 kinds of demons that has been destroyed, that has been, and that 4 demons is, the first one is the afflictive demons, and the demon of the death, and then demon of the god's son, which means kind of distraction, and the demons of the aggregates. So these are the 4 demons, and having destroyed them, having, victory over these demons, so we have this, Chom, that means totally destroyed.
That is it because ta ko daja kitamba inanda ta sanje do bi kitchena ani ngacho ke tanda ke phumbo na yi ke ke njua do yi ke phumbo ki ran yi te le deba ta ani chiwa ran sen ba len deba nami ke parche le deba te na gi chen nyomo ba
So when one becomes enlightened, like Shakyamuni Buddha or any kinds of Buddha, when they reach that state of enlightenment, so then they are already destroyed these 4 kinds of demons. So that means they are not subjected to these aggregates which are impermanent in nature, that changes constantly, every single instant it changes. And also about the death, they are beyond this death and also beyond this distraction. So also beyond all kind of afflictive emotions, including the habitual tendencies, because they are already destroyed or already purified all these kinds of afflictive emotions. So in this way, they have complete victory or complete destroyed the 4 kinds of demons.
Then ko tom sa de papambi chan hegore den sa de chu yobi chan hegore te yoba de kari yoba hegore sana lepi yante tru de baji hegores.
And next word is chom den. Den means to endowed. So one is the chom word is talking from the point of purification, purifying, to destroy all the negative elements, and then means to endow with all the positive qualities. So here we have this endowed. So endowed here actually refers to the 6 kinds of qualities.
Tatila wanchu bada onchu da zu zonwa da pal da drapa da ye he da zhenri sen de ke lepi yante pizong zoba tru da den baji de hegores.
So they're talking about here 6 kinds of qualities. One is the Wangchuk, so that's kind of any kinds of power, kind of, and Pal is also the qualities. Chakpa is kind of a fame or the popular. Yishi is the wisdom, and Tsundu is the perseverance. So these kinds of 6 qualities, these all kinds of 6 qualities being endowed with Buddha. So that's we have this Den is endowed with all the qualities.
Tatike Bhagwan Sedikasale Pa Tombiki Chata, Dembiki Cha, Lejak told Sitolechena, Tini Rangmeto, Ligio Mares, Yinaya, Tini De Sevate, Lotawate Toke, Bhagwan Seate, Perkele Tsuju di Casula, Ane ya Nembares, Takarsana, Bhagwan Seate Chico Chom Den Chico Chena, ane chiropi la onchu da tsamba da chamyu la so ba tezo la ya khronzo ke bagwan sen ke ji begu yares te chomba da demba ke tan yo ba hi yares te chi de ka so tezo le chebar pha ba tembi da sonje te ane chomba tartu da di anten demba tartu yi bi chane tezo le ja depi ke jiten le depi ke ane ko chomba da demba ke dan sami ke chane ane deba sa de be la tsujuti kasola ani leja la ngos matena ya dala ti chami chane ani ya nembares
And then we have this De, Chomden De. It is said that the original Sanskrit word Bhagavan, or the Bhagavati as in a feminine word, Bhagavan actually doesn't have this word De in the Sanskrit, original Sanskrit. It only has this Chom and De, which means destroying all the negativities and endowed with all the positive qualities. But then this Bhagavan, that word also refers to many of the Hindu gods as well. So in order to show that it is something different or something superior than that, the Tibetan translators, they added this De, which means, it's beyond this world. It's kind of transcending this world. So this is beyond this worldly samsara thing. So that's why now we have this word as a Chomden De for this Sanskrit word Bhagavan.
ani tomden de mas ate ta mas ate ani ta mochi yum se ate ke ji gores ta de ko peiko ne ani ke ji gores pena ani nga chun ji na ani ma de ani nga chu chi ke tu shi bi ke joam 아니 라기 임바 나이체네 단다 혈아지 바로도 침바세와 대 아니 손제 탐제 뒤좀제 손제 탐제 네비 손제다 이나야 대 델라 때니 제바 다다위 손제 이나야 델라 때니 제바 마음비 산제 이나 델라셰네 제브른 조아이 비기 캬네 아니 좀된데 마센든 라바레스.
And Ma here is the feminine word, which shows the kind of mother, Panchaparamita, mother of wisdom. And it's also through this analogy also, you can understand this one. For example, mother, give birth to the child. In the same way, this Panchaparamita Sutra, this Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, also gives birth to all the Buddhas of the 3 times. All the past Buddhas also became Buddha because of this Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. In the same way, the present Buddhas and all the future Buddhas also will depend on this Perfection of Wisdom Sutra in order for them to get the complete enlightenment.
근데 혈압지 바로도 침바세. 다 혈압세야 때 가족이 희바 탐지기 논이 효도 줘봐. 근데 길래 지당 혈압세가 그래서.
And then wisdom in Tibetan was sherab. That means among all the different kinds of knowledge that we have, the topmost or the refined one is among those knowledge is called the wisdom.
시당 아주 산다 생준이 옆에 너니 생준기 차든지 기라 혈압세네 대야 제레다고 뭐다보때 육니루 소소체네 그파 세보 동행기라 문제 제거래서
And generally talking about this mind, we have this main the mind and the mental factors. And this wisdom is one of the mental factors. And it is mental factors that discriminates the different types of knowledges, the different kinds of things out there. That's that's the kind of activities what they do with this kind of a mental factor.
단데니 혈압제 바로도 침바 세디가솔라 혈압이 논에 있느냐 탈침바 혈압이 논에 있느냐 초도 줘봐 드니길게 되시고래서
And we're talking over here transcendent wisdom. So not just a wisdom, but the supreme of the wisdoms, the best of the best wisdoms we're talking about here. That's we have this transcendental wisdom.
다 드니게 혈압제 바로도 침바 될라야 찌용이 산노도나 드니게 혈압제 바로도 침바세기 민주사데 리 카헤지요래서
Generally speaking, this transcendental wisdom or the perfection of wisdom, that's this name actually has a few things that can have this name.
대치디가솔라 근데 랑긴 해진 아니 람 해진 레브 해진 윤 해진 세네 네 이해다오지 문제는 저거래서 혈압 바로 침바사게 민주사
We can generally have four things here that can be labeled as the perfection of wisdom. So the first one is the natural perfection of wisdom. And then we have this path perfection of wisdom. And we have this resultant, perfection of wisdom. And the scriptural perfection of wisdom.
대치디가솔라 다 은혜게 혈압지 바로도 침바사게 민주사 뭐데 가르쳐가고 그러잖아 남바 탐진 재밌기 예히 될라고 그래서
The actual name this perfection of wisdom refers to is the omniscient knowledge, the knowledge that the Buddha has. That is the actual things that this perfection of wisdom refers to.
그 가르치는 세나 또 남바 탐진 재미 예히 세와데 저 담지 소손 제비기 해바노니 탈두바 또 텔레 라반 로야 메바게 초도 주바 탈침바 파로도 침바 어떻게 차디요레스
Because the wisdom of omniscient wisdom, the wisdom that Buddha has, that is the supreme wisdom. There isn't anything that you can go beyond that one. You can have more than that. You cannot have this one. That is the supreme of all the wisdoms that you can ever have. That's why it refers to, the actual reference is to this Buddha's omniscient knowledge.
대지디 가슬레 남바 탐진 집이 히텔라 아니 기타간 쳔바다 진입인 쳔바세니 아니 리니 체그레스
And this knowledge of the Buddhas, you can actually categorize into two different things. The first one is the Chittawa Khenpo, that is the knowledge that knows the actual reality of all the things. And the second one is the knowledge that knows all the multitude, however many things there are, multitude of things.
대지디 가슬레 기타완 쳔비 히세와데게 유키니루암 란히암 고 인당 가레 임바테 사도 만레바 도바텔라 기타완 쳔바스니 그디게거레스
The knowledge that knows the reality of all the things is the knowledge that clearly knows every single reality of every single thing without any mixing up with anything.
아니 진입인 쳔바생인데 땅아서 그 희지초의 그 남로 표정기 차 같이요 봐 참아데 아니 고 살람 만레바 또 통행지를 해결했어.
And the knowledge of the multitude of things is, that knowledge knows all the different types of things, however many they are in this world or beyond, and without any mistaking anything.
다 띵이 간에 있나야 근데 시바 탐지기 논이 라담 초담 푸르치바데 차디 가서 다디 혈아지 바로 치바사게 세니밤 뭐데 다디 야디 야나디 거레스.
So the real actual name of perfection of wisdom refers to this knowledge of Buddha that has two facets of it, that which knows the quality or the reality of things and the multitude of things.
근데 나저게 람셰진세 다 근데기 넘버 단진 집이 히데 시버 집이게 아니 주 토모 많이 봐다고 사동보네 사주바바게 아니 냠야게 차 저담비 니루 지긴도 또비게 만som 대 아니 람셰진세네 다디 고 라텔라에 샤라지 바로치마 따거 가르세나 제비 미인데 줄라타체네 니텔라에 샤라 바로치마슨 라부가레스.
And then second, we have the path, perfection of wisdom. And we call this path also the perfection of wisdom because the resultant of the path is the complete enlightenment. So that name of the resultant has been labeled here on the path because this path, when you traverse on this path, it will lead you to the complete enlightenment state. And this path, you have these 10 bhumis and the 10 stages, different stages. From the first stages to the 10th stages, all the meditative states of these paths also refers to the perfection of wisdom.
아니 rangi chechi sevate tendeke nebu chechi da lam chechi ke yud chubi ke ne chuk nilu tomba toda yuk nilu chitawa te ane rangi chechi sene toni toda ki chane ta yuken ke mi de yula ta chene ane chechi sene la weres.
And the natural perfection of wisdom sutra, that of the refers to that of the result and the path, and those are talking about the subject from the wisdom subject, and from the object out there on the phenomena we have this emptiness and the simplicity or the without any elaboration in there. So that also refers to as a perfection of wisdom, and that has been referred to as the natural perfection of wisdom.
Tene ta tene ke yuk chechi am rangi chechi te dan rebu chechi da lam chechi te zon soma joja jibi ke ani tanda kondo heba na yijene chechi ki yun jindi diso tam jela ani heraji parot chimba asene lagu yores karsena joja ke minte joje la ta chene.
And then we have this scriptural perfection of wisdom. And those scriptures or the texts whose subject or which teaches about the perfection of wisdom, we call that also perfection of wisdom text, because those texts shows the subject of those texts shows the perfection of wisdom.
Tejidi tanda Jonden de ma heraji parodo chimba seati tanda konde heba na yi ani lam shejin da ani rangi shejin te Jonden de jebar jibi ke ma heraji parodo chimba chagur karsana de to bala teni sanje goyore sundabachi sanje ba yina tini ke yuk nelu toni toda te ma to bala te nyam chu malen bala ni sanje kompon roya yo mare te chidi kasula ani delaya ane sanje shibi ke ma kitande changugores.
And see here, the Chamden Dhamma that refers to the perfection of wisdom can also refer to the natural perfection of wisdom, because this natural perfection of wisdom shows the emptiness of all things. Without realizing this emptiness, there is no way that you can attain the complete enlightenment state. So that's why this Chamden Dhamma Bhagavati also can refer to the natural perfection wisdom.
대단히 진짜 람시진 때라야 근데 통람다 고람게 깝게 저랑만서도 또 비긴 챔바 때 냠선는 때 안에 컨트롤로 있기 돈이 안에 고 산지지 공부도 토고장 근데 대라야 좀 된데 마켓 그 단데 총구열했어.
And also this Chamden Dhamma can refer to the path perfection of wisdom, because on the path, when you are on the path of seeing and on the path of meditation, after path of seeing, after path of meditation, you can attain the complete enlightenment state. So that's why this Bhagavati Pariparamita, or this perfection of wisdom here, can also refer to the path perfection of wisdom.
단단하게 융 셔라지 바로 듣지마때 돌아야 아니 여자kimi 여제를 따든 좀 된데 마 셔라지 바로 듣지마세네 근데 미인데 드네진에 따네 다그랬어 단단하게 융데 셰진 디바 이미 차네 아니 셔라지 바로 좀 된데 마 셔라지 바로 듣지마세네 근데 미인데 다그랬어.
And since this Heart Sutra also teaches the subject perfection of wisdom, so this Chamden Dhamma can also refer to the scripture perfection of wisdom, or the text perfection of wisdoms.
대체 니보지. 근데 니보세야 돼. 니보세야 되라 아니 고단 니라고 삼아보는 게 그랬어.
And then we have this essence of the Heart Sutra, heart maybe here translated. You can think of this in two different ways.
찍대 가르고고스는 힘보세야 돼. 단다게 윤데게 단다 건도 휴반나 이제는 자체와 사람께 남겨 다 아니 사바 똥비기를 봐. 니노니 사바 똥비기를 봐대 너 숫자도 되는 시비차니 아니 힘보 세니케나야 그거래서.
And you can call this the Heart Sutra, or the essence, because among the two, we have this, the vast explanation about the path and bhumis of stages, and the profound, which is the emptiness. And since this one shows about the profound emptiness nature, you can say that this essence refers to this the emptiness.
대지디 가서래 단다 양샤 겐다 찌라 갈 거야 열서나 단다 건도 휴반나 이제니 셔라지 바로도 침비기 흉데 아니 제바 디바사라보다 제발라야 되니 제비사라보다 되게 자첨보 되니 제여바 이나야 대소 참아게 단니 찌도 디바 아니 맹아 그림바다부 체네 아니 고단 차성 총한데와라 시뉴바 아니 데네치기 토라 추디가 비준될 때는 흰규암 니보다고 이 비준될 때는 힘보세나야 리가레스.
And this essence of the heart can also refer to the heart, or the essence of all the teachings that we talked about, that this perfection of wisdom has a different versions of the sutras. We have the very extensive one, we have this middling level and the shorter version, and each of these has all these three different levels. And all these teachings, the essence of all this teaching has been talked or been explained here in this short text. That's why you can also say is that this is like a pit instruction of all those extensive explanation of the perfection of wisdom.
셰자와 휴소서 다 되나보티 저야티 내가 열에서는 저렇게 잘했다.
And the Tibetan title says that, and here recites this text, so which she says that, this kind of text with this title is here being explained here starts from here after.
다 되네게 용데 쉬와지밖에 찬다데 다 디디다버지나 되네지레스. 대치디 다용 되네지레스.
So this is a brief explanation of the title of the text.
yung 마슈와 마슈빙어들은 니니 마삼gem에 샤라 파라지 마시메고 난그모니 소소로니 이게제 대선 자유열랑 창살로사게 안에 yung 콜로게 지데 남정 아저게 된 단디가 솔라야 다야 클로제 열라 단다 니니야 디거도 스팅은에 제나 샤랍니보 그런게 자식이 간 자유야 말했어 이나야 데라 니 처적 진도버치니 야도 등가 좀 대시 잔난 디서레스.
And then we have the 4 lines here in the, if you're looking at this text here. And that actually, those 4 lines are not part of the Heart Sutra. But when we recite it, we also always recite it before the Heart Sutra, we recite these 4 lines. And these 4 lines actually are kind of a praise or the homage to the perfection of wisdom. So we can also explain these 4 lines here.
디케 효로가 디케 가르된 거였으나 당이 콘트 슈바나 이제는 레부 셰진 람 셰진 라이 셰진 융 셰진선이 예비노니 아니 라이 셰진암 이 셰진데 제거레스 라이 셰진사다 이 셰진사니 단다지고 권한데 거래 어디 된 거였어.
And what this verse, this 4 lines shows is, as explained earlier, that we have 4 types of perfection of wisdom. We have this natural perfection of wisdom, the path perfection of wisdom, the result perfection of wisdom, and the scriptural perfection of wisdom. Among these 4 lines shows the natural perfection of wisdom. And in other words, we can also call this natural perfection of wisdom as the base or the ground perfection of wisdom.
다때 간에스 다 라이 셰진암 이 셰진사데 육차 똥닉들라 게지게거레스 저다들라.
And this natural or the ground perfection of wisdom, talking about the emptiness or of the phenomena, or the without an elaboration, that part, that emptiness or the free from elaboration, that part is being explained.
다 딘데기 라이 셰징아 히라지 바로도 제마데 간데지레세나 마메통에 삼메통에 저메통에 딘데지레세네 라고레라고야레세.
So the first line shows what is this natural perfection? How is this natural? So it says that it is something that you cannot be explained, and then it cannot be inconceivable, inexpressible, and that kind of a thing, that kind of quality is there, kind of.
간데지레세와이나 하메도와데 간데레세나 육닐루 돈이 저다생인데 아니 나조게 릴람게 토네 혈압게 잡아잡소아이나 아니 열에서나야 아니 고롱 추토그 토네 나조게 진대하는 이 메댕에 아니 메르세나야 아니 다니도 효면님에게 레가지 제댕에 아니 여면니가레세나야 되닌갈댕에 여면니가 말에세나야 야면통에 어떤지 제고디 가슬 나조게 아니 늘리지 레스네 파 모치 때거나 아니 때 메싱에 때 메토미다고 드니기 네초지 마치 제거레스.
So this parameter, perfection of wisdom, is ineffable, inconceivable, and inexpressible. So how is that? If you analyze that through the logical reasoning or through your own, using your own wisdom, if you analyze that, whether that is something that is kind of thing, you cannot say that it is there. And if you say that it doesn't exist there, means then also you cannot say that, because it kinds of has this kind of doing all these things out there, kind of. Yeah. And you cannot say that it is both, it is and it is not, because then it is a contradictory, is not. So in a way that if you have to identify it, if you have to show it out there, it cannot be, expressed. It cannot be say that in words.
Then I some metabares, some metaba can chago or sana. Then I took a tick your senaya and then Zimbachi shune nilu yula cubic long in a manowaji chago mare. Mary senaya ni yamatoyaji. And the Yomaniga resena yamta, Niga maresena and Zimba candida which shoes and I zetan the typical lote. Ane ko ninjin jeng lo chando de kasole yuk nilu jigin to big lo machang de kasole and summit of ajeres and tinichigores.
And it's also inconceivable, meaning you cannot think about that thing, because if you think that it is out there, it's kind of a attachment is already there within that thinking of the mind. And if you say that it is not there, you cannot say that too, because whatever we do with this kind of a mind to think about it, that always has some kind of attachment being there. So in that way, it's considered as inconceivable.
Tichidi kasole mawada sama methoba de carres and the sharat you rangi catching ye catching the senate gores had parochins.
So this kind of thing that you cannot be talked about, you cannot express about, that you cannot think about, that is the natural perfection of wisdom.
Tadini mashe mega naku ngoni sendikazo te yangshar aneko ting stops gene skip charts gene ma de hejagores carres na ne ma masheba ko juchen la tene sheba mahiba ko tatiji kasole ko ta yi shengo kribe ta kijena ne ko shewa sengen ya mahiba shewa megunde kasole shewa la ngaba ya medenge ane 직배다 버 찬차 소아이나 남과 나기지레스 다 대야 초잠지레마도 근데 대 기타와인 나과더니 총통이야 말이나야 괜찮다 버치나 남과랑 아저기 직아 데레스는 무슨다 버지 메대와 나이지 다 자고레스.
And the next line, is unborn, unceasing, the very nature of space. The same thing that has been explained in line 1 has been explained again with more kind of detail. It says it's unborn because to be born, you have to depend on lots of causes and conditions. And since this is not something like that, so it's unborn in nature. And since that's not been born, there is no ceasing too. There's no ceasing. Ceasing, to have a ceasing, you have to have a there to be born first, right? And since this is beyond these two, born and cease, that's called the nature of the space. And actually, that nature of the space is, we can have the best example of that space cannot actually fully cover or fully represent this one, but that's the only example we can find kind of in this world. So that's why we have that is the nature of space.
Tati tindaboke ma mtunge sam mtunge sheba mai bangaba mai ba nankwanda bajimba ina ta sukhange hakwaya menjo ji jot me bi dana yi ta sukhange hakwaya menjo da bajirevesena tiang maresena tin ma hiegores.
And the next line shows that if it is something that you cannot express, you cannot conceive, is something that's unborn, something that's unceasing, so then it is something that nobody can understand about it, something nobody, like we have this inexpressible self in one of the schools of the Buddhism. So if it is something like that, and then it says, no, that's so the third line explains that one.
Tatikarsen soso rani yekicho yuwase 그 단디 kondu heba na yi jene ane lam heji tonlanda golam ki nyabya ki cha 저랑 도비기 챈바 대다 되는 레부 해지 넘어 단지 집에 얘기 어때 되게 소소 라리 비기 얘기 인지 단지 희자위기 아니 챈바 대조기 쇼유 오래 센다 티셔거스.
And the third line shows that it can still be experienced by the self-cognized wisdom, and now this wisdom refers to the among the various perfection wisdoms that we talked about, the path perfection of wisdom, which is those who are on the path of seeing and on the path of meditation, and the result perfection of wisdom, which is the Buddhahood. That so those people or those Aryas, those beings, higher beings who are on this path and who are Buddha, they can experience this perfection of wisdom.
다 디다보게 고 저기 니루 타투바 동이 디 안에 또발에 때네 뒤송 그 sonje 단지 안에 사제 제비 기준선에 때네 안에 자위기 용세네 어다 때라 고송 그베 건 때기 인사게 근데 땡차서 바레스.
So this ultimate reality of all things, once you realize this once, then you become a Buddha. So this is like the mother who gives birth to the child. In the same way, by realizing this perfection of wisdom, you become Buddha. So this is like a mother. So for this kind of a mother of the Paramita, so I pay homage. So this is the homage to the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, Perfection of Wisdom.
다 디게 단다 윤데노 템비게 아니 저자 유 셰지암 가스기 셰지암 아니 랑이 셰지 어따티 탕거레스.
So then now the actual text shows about the, no, actually these 4 lines not just talking about, we just talked about, it shows the natural perfection of wisdom or the basic or the base or the ground perfection of wisdom. It shows that.
니마 융을 아니 다 찬단다 아니 주차 레다 융을 아니 저 토마르 게와 레케타 파드 게와 융그타 타마 게와 뉴크타라보 근데 좀 여디어레스.
And then we have the actual text. And generally, when talking about explaining about a text, we have this, you know, the beginning, the main body of the text, and then the conclusion part. So we have these 3 parts.
토마르 게와 레케텔라 단 찬단 주차라보 테니 여비노는 생게탄 테타 당기 콘디시 바당이 단다데 티레 자가르게도 방가탄자 바라메타세아테 레자케도 히게요리 벽에도 좀된 마샤드 파르 니보사아테 벽에니 토네 히게요리 티니게 단다데 당기 콘디시서바 테레스.
And the first part is about the title, you know. So the first one is the title in the actual Sanskrit, which shows that the Bhagavati Prajnaparamita Hridaya, and then we have the same thing in Tibetan, and this is the same title that we just explained above.
아니 반복기고사테 아니 레작 톨라 예고야 말이나야 로자와테 저기야 nembares 테카스나 융제 또바 반비자스디 가슬로 융게 린투다 체중 같이 여봐 데라 마오발라 쿄레 민주와 제돌라 아니 반복기 열에서 테카슬로 반복기라 세 가지 여봐데 아니 생에 켄지 돈에 아니 시에게 열에 대치디 가슬로 아니 샤라니 보텔라 반복기 열에서 테카슬로 마오바 시 마타야다 야루야 마요에 제돌라 아니 로자와테 저기야 야바치레스.
And then next we have this Pambo Chiko. In English is translated in 1 volume. It's the Pambo Chik. That's a Tibetan thing. It doesn't have in the original Sanskrit or in any of the Indian text of the Indian Buddhist texts. But when the great masters and the translators of the Tibetan, when they translated text into Tibetan, they made this Pambo, which is a count of the words in the text. So they have 1 Pambo means there's certain number of words within 1 Pambo. So they have this one so that in the future, or nobody can interpolate anything or take out words from that one, because the number of words is being, kind of decided, or totally, decided upon that, because one pampo has this many of words in it. So in the future, if somebody takes out some word or add some word, so we can right away know that, oh, this is not the correct form, because this is one pampo, but that number of words doesn't correspond to that one.
Ni tomne de ma khara ji paro de chimala changsalo sa de tanda de jibare tangi konta ta tin juncha se de ko de yung de chu de ka so le ane pa ji ma yo wa ju ta chi ma yung ya ke che to la ani jo apo be ma meta ta gelon de chen de la so ba to ke ani ya ne ya ba ji res.
And the next line we have is Chumdin Damashiraji Paradishimbal Chatsello, homage to Bhagavati Pranja Paramita. This one also is not in the original Sanskrit. This has been added by the translator, as actually is a homage by the translator, so that his translation work he doesn't face any kind of obstacles in his translating in this work.
Ta de thoma ge wa lek chan da chi ta pa de ga yung krong la ani da 표정 조방가 이거는 렌 하왔다. 아니 대화 되는 그 돈의 용어 아니 튼주르다 이랑 그 돈에 아니 주도하라고 근데 좀 사지잖아 리사레스.
And this is among the first three categories that we talked about. This is the beginning. So we generally talk about the meritorious at the beginning, meritorious the middle, and meritorious the end. So this is the meritorious part of the beginning. That's the one section. And now the actual text. So in this actual text, we can have three categories. First is the introductory kind of thing. There's a context. We're talking about the five excellencies. And then the actual text where it is being done in a question and answer way, here discussion. And then at the end, Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, he give his accent, give his, agreed upon whatever they're talking, and then completing this text.
그는 피성 초방가 이거는 내놓은데라 니게 다그 테바 뒤기나 좀데 잡이 갑자기 품비를 개론 그 겐디 켐보 다 탑기도 유대 세와 아테 레다테 피성 초바텔라 토모의 피성 초방가다 토모 많이 비게 네 토모의 랭기다 토모 많이 비게 랭기에서네 니시거레스.
And this introductory part, we're talking about two. One is a general, common introductory, and the uncommon one.
Tati tumowi ki lengi dan tumo maimi sayade, tumowi lengi sayade, ane yung di tsamate ne, yung yenda nalaya, ane pyosong tsoba nga tende ki xe jeyo batila, tumowi ki lengi silaga yores.
The general common introductory means the common, not just to this text, but common to other texts also, or where they have this introductory remarks.
Tumo maimi ki lengi sayade kasule, yung di no rama to, tedan rabo ji, yung yenda nolan yung meba chane, tumo maimi ki lengi sayade laga yores.
And uncommon introductory means uncommon to this text, that refers only to this, or that talks only in this text.
Tichidi kaso dan tumo ki lengi te kandis tengi yorosana, dike da ke tepa tiki na, tomde de jabi ka chagu pumbirila, gelon ke gendi kembo ta, chanchu sembi gendi kembo ta, tapki do yute sa, teki patu tala, ane tumo ki lengi te tengi yores.
And the general introductory, shows here in the page number 2 from the beginning, thus have I heard, to the third line, or I should say third or whatever, which means, and the great gathering of the Sangha of Bodhisattvas, up to there, it shows the general introductory here.
다 근데 도모 길랭이 때 가네스 땡이 왜요잖아. 아니 표성 소방가 이거네. 아니 땡이 왜요레스.
And this general introduction shows with the 5 excellencies.
다때 가네스 땡이 왜요잖아. 니게 다게 퇴바 세바 디게 아니 큐 표성 소바디 다 땡이 왜요레스.
The first line here, thus have I heard, that shows the excellence of the dharma.
다때 가네스 땡이 왜요잖아. 근데 따도 니 퇴가바데 세고도 가서 그렇게 퇴가바데 아니 좀 된데 시바니 아니 마 예수 이랑어 희기 빠돌라 아니 용어이데 차되어레스 다 가르스나 단단데 아니 까 도와보딜라 아니 가시긴 잠미용레 세거레 가시 끈가오레 세거레 다 가네나야 수이마이나야 되니게 까 도와보데 무슨 손제게 자급품비를 청거도 꼬비잖아 무슨 디기 그 주라도 예비 준선한테 닌드다도 퇴송 사야군디 가서 그런 그 무슨 퇴야바데 근데 샤라 주문 거는 타바도 인디 가서 근데 최부전 줘바데 아니 그 되는 좀 된데 해봤네 예수 이랑을 희비바게 용 차상대 차군디 가서 때 최부전 줘바데 된 거랬어.
And this, as mentioned, it shows the excellence of the dharma, because from thus have I heard, that what did he hear is, from the text, the beginning of the text to the end of the text, that's what he heard. And this one actually was by the compiler. And some says that the compiler of this text is Jambeyang Manjushri, while some others says that it is Ananda who compiled this text, whoever that may be. But what is showing here is that this compiler says that, I have heard this kind of text, so that's what he heard it. So what he heard is from the first word of the text to the last word of the text.
되게 최표선 소바데 된 거랬어. 대치디 안에 표선 소방가 이거네. 최표선 소바데 시티 톤이 된바지 뭐좀 되거랬어.
So this word is considered as showing the excellence of the dharma among the 5 excellencies.
안에 뒤지나 써야 돼. 뒤지나 써야 되게 뒤표선 소바데 된 거랬어. 가르세나 뒤 남야 가 뒤이나야 거야 대녀야 매봐. 뒤지나 고 뒤저 찌라 테마 찌라 네 퇴송 사야지 우리 가서라 아니 고 뒤대 뒤비기 뒤저대 땡 우리 가서라 뒤표선 잡았다 땡 거랬어.
And the next shows the excellence of the time. And here is once, the next line, is a once or at one time, this is showing the excellence of the time, and which shows that this kind of dharma, you cannot hear this all the time or repeatedly. So you can hear only at one time. So that's why he's showing that, thus have I heard at one time. So this is showing the excellency of the time.
뒤지니까 솔라 뒤지나 세와 되게 뒤표선 소바 땜바 짠도 마제니 아니 뒤 하장 껌보이 봐 아장게 아니 띵 사보다 아니 짜첨보이 봐 아니 되니지 아니 땡여레스.
Not only it shows that this is the excellence of the time, but it also shows that this kind of teaching is very rare, profound, and sacred.
아니 대나기 전에 최표선섭이 가서라 다그 퇴세야 되게야 아니 그 시당 최표선섭 땜바장도 마제니 대 쿵다보이 봐 주니 직 세기도 사자마이 봐 소수응스 퇴가바데 땡고디 가서라 아니 유용데 만에게 치다 단 가르치냐나야 아니 푸드침바다 체다 땜바데니 짐바데 땅을 열어서나 리거레스.
And in the same way, in the first one, thus have I heard, it can also show, besides from the excellency of the dharma, that the source is also reliable, because that it's not saying that somebody told me or I hear somebody else talking about it, but it's saying that I have heard myself this teaching being taught at a certain time. So this shows that, this the source of this is a very reliable one.
아니 점된데 세와티게 아니 가르땡거래서나 담바 표정 소바 땡거래서 당기 권도 쇼바나 이 점된데 세와티 상제라 고고요래서
The blessed one shows in the text here, or the Bhagavan. So this refers to the teacher, Buddha.
아니 자비캅 자그 품비 릴라 세와티게 아니 네 표정 소바 땡거래서
So this blessed one refers to the excellency of the teacher. And the next one, dwelling in the Rajgriha at the Vulture Peak, that shows the place, the excellency of the place.
근데 자비캅 세야데 donde jabu zuchen boke ni jakon ya saki ni te chawe di chacho ane re jago ke ip jem ip da do yebi ke ane rite ke zela se ara ta ti tengo de kasola tike ni peson so ba te temba chigores.
So this excellency of the place is at the Rajgriha. Rajgriha is the kingdom of the king Bimbisara, and towards the east of his kingdom is this mountain, which is like a shape of a vulture. So that's why it's called the Vulture Peak mountain. So at this mountain, on this mountain, or at this mountain, this teaching was taught or taken place.
Tene genon ki gendi chembo tang chanju sembi gendi chembo tang se atike ane kopison so ba te ngores.
And the next next words here, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of Bodhisattvas, that shows the excellency of the disciples.
Tene genon ki gendi se de kasola genon yire ndu de kasol gendi chago yores. Tene ki gendi yire ge sen tatine mombo so de gendi mombo chanda yores. Tene se de kasola genon ki gendi tene chembo se ate ka tedi ke choya bi ke genon te choti sharap ta jutru put chimba nga yanjo tene chane tene gendi chembo se ne chembo kami ki jan he yores.
Sangha of monks here. And generally, when you have 4 bhikshus gathered together, we call that Sangha, of one Sangha, kind of, and here the great gathering, great refers to because those Sanghas at that time were excellent or the supreme. They have the supreme wisdom and can perform all these miraculous activities. So that's why this great has been placed here.
다 시라 니보 든 켈랭게 노나 갈롱 같은 데야 바 키게 마디나야 셰칭기 이용 양다 되는 노나 갈롱 제다 차라 쪼섬 갈롱 제다 자라 쪼섬 세안라고 기동 인장 앞에서 되는 데야 바 되는 게 제시게 그래서 네발라야 딜라야 되는 진디야 바 고알레나 만디오 메바로 차고 그래서.
Here in this text, the actual number of monks has not been mentioned, but in some other Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, it mentioned that there were 1,250 bhikshus, sanghas. So you can also think about the same number here. If you think of it that way, it should be okay to think that way too.
근데 장주 셈비 겐디 쳔보탄 사야되게 아니 게론 쪼고자 마이바 아니 고 라비용 땡제 마이나야 아니 고파타디 가서 침바게 땡제나바 임바이나야 아니 정주 셈 저마마이바 줄레시 데비게 장주 셈비기 아니 파바 장주 셈비게 겐디 근데 쳔보세야데 네야 고 제당하게 정주 셈 제바자 마이바 사람 텀볼라 니댕에
and a great gathering of Sangha Bodhisattvas, not just the disciples of the bhikshus, there are also many Bodhisattvas gathered there too. So Bodhisattvas means those beings have reached certain levels and they already become the Bodhisattvas, and not necessarily a monk. They can also be a lay people there, but they are all reached the Bodhisattva level. So that's why we have this Bodhisattvas, and the great refers to not just Bodhisattvas, but they are dwelling on the higher paths or the higher bhumis, highest stages of the bodhisattva levels.
Take corporation so things. Tapki you there said Tapki said Lenki say the Casocardingers and the capsule and so Yabik Temba in Andra, Korean Andra, the so Tamati and Sankana Pemba Duyak in Duba, some no Chibaimba, Gomba Chibaimba. Jawaya, Chunchina that dig tola and ko Dubatig about Chibaimba. Use like a nay in a Chagupu be Ricky Zela, and then Chibaimba. What the Niki Chane, Tagiba, and Hengiba, Uyores. That Chigures.
So this shows the excellency of the disciples. So we have here the together with. So this is, they have this together in English was a little bit before, but while the Tibetan comes at the end. So what this has the meaning of together is, all this gathered there, including the Buddha himself and the disciples, the sanghas, the bhikshus and the bodhisattvas, they all have gathered together with the same intention to benefit all sentient beings, and with the same activities of teaching and listening to the teachings, teaching with the teaching and listening to that teaching, whatever the teaching they're doing, and also dwelling at the same place in the Vulture Peak at Rajgriha.
Tatijika's Tendiki Pison so Bangadik, Tandating at Sokan Dehi Jawudi Castle. So Gane Ane Semnola, Chorwa Legoya Jik, Lo Nintonga Jake Yangala, and it's Jabi Cup, Tanda Rajgirs and the Pagin Mursota, Jakakinga de Bia, Nona Yodenjo, Tindike, Tike, and Rich Rizela, and the Sonje da, and the Gendi. Galonke Gendi da Chaju Sembi Gendi Mopoche Tsone, and the church the Legik, Donat Che about the Sosic Santo la Lene, Kadinaya, Hirani bot Tendi Castle, Til Loyuto, Jetoya, Yan Chea, Tapitoyade, Nikachamo about Chodus.
And
The
I feel,
Duna Kaya Mares, no Chunga Chagores.
and I feel that the importance of the mentioning of these five excellences is whenever you recite this kind of prayers, this thing, you have to have the sense in your mind that this place, Rajgriha, which is in the Indian state of Bihar, not far from the Bodh Gaya, in that one there is this Vulture Peak. You can even see that nowadays. And at that mountain, the Shakyamuni Buddha and his disciples of the bhikshus and bodhisattvas are gathered together. So you can have that kind of feeling in your mind when you recite these lines. It's not something like a story or something like a legendary or something like story like that. It is something that happened in the past.
Matan Pinghantula, Kama Ninsum Yitendit Today Samno de Yapoch, Mazoke Lagomia da Go Gomjaya da Chibado Chagores, Sosoke Tingni Lole Yapochi, Samno Tanchene, Sortobaji che. Ane Jini, and the Casetan Tobaina Tachini, some Casetan Tobaina Dane, Tenechena, Yapo Yemida Samudus.
And I feel that it's important and it's nice if you, before you recite this text, a couple of minutes before that, think about it and feel about it. Just like when you do the meditation, especially like the generation stage meditation, you meditate about deities. In the same way, before you recite this prayer, you kind of think about this place in Rajgriha, this Vulture Peak, and think about this Buddha Shakyamuni there and all his disciples, the Sangha of monks and the Bodhisattvas, all gathering there together. So have that kind of feeling, life feeling in your mind.
Humalang also tell a lem yungea yojres, Maoba tell a lem dongea yojres, tell a lem yungea and the Maoba la lepsonang also, the naked person of Banga Kenitsute, and the Lola Tran it's San Tontabaina. Yeah, where is?
You might have visited this Vulture Peak in Rajgriha, or you may go in the future there to visit this place as a pilgrimage there. So when you go there, try to, when you see that thing, try to remember and, in your mind to be alive, all these happenings that happened in the past, think about these 5 excellences.
치당 아주 다 nomba sonje bi chule teba chenge da megu chenge deso nenje ya da chöko ya tenile ndoya kla ngazo lamso sena da komshi sena da andene ke shuchambo je de res.
Generally speaking, within the Buddhism, we have this tradition of visiting these sacred places as a pilgrimage.
Tejidi kasula nyaro ke samno tonsu chorontola chikke pa samsuda bachi shibai ngaro ko chonanda bata samsu no tanda bachi shibai na ne tene je kan rodi kasula jagala ta ngaso ne chen yi da je da sen tene ke je ya ra ta tene sala ne je kan rodi kasula o ndila sanje chomde de ke ani karse kore kumetan sare ne sanje chomde de ke chesung sare ne sanje chomde de ke chire ni re khorchi ke chire ni re sane ne ndashi jenge to ke mampu je jayung res.
So I feel that when you visit on a pilgrimage to these sacred sites, whether that be the 4 sacred sites of the Buddha or the 8 sacred sites of the Buddha, when you go there, you may find different guides there who might tell you a lot of things like, Buddha Shakyamuni who rested here, he taught teachings here, he meditated here, and all kind of things might explain it to you.
이나에 저런 게 대sol에 고 년전에 대sol에 다가란 임바 차이야는 저런 대바 먹이 제는 리든 디그어레스.
It is okay if you just believe that guy and think and pay your homage, respect out of the faith.
이나야 저런 때라 뒤저를 뭐지 내도 가고 말았어. 뒤저 툰두지 노노라 텔레장 개체와지 배나 자격 분비를 이제를 저런 랩소나 텔라 맛 대제네. 아니 로니 동갑자게 양을라 손제당 코 정주 선바테도 다 갈런테도 뉴제네. 아니 델라 샤락 셰징게 최고르도 라 도난다. 아니 지그 냠네 mambochi nangyore sambake ko tingwe ne zo imbate ani ko yusa te do kandikane yuya ne da saja phaka ko ena choka ko ena te choda nyamyi matang wa chine te soso ke ya chorto ba te soso ke karsa ko ngos ji te dik te choda ba ya sam ma tonto ya te thone ani te de chine soso ke karen da ya na karen manam ja ya na ja ya te ani ke chewa ndo je men sam do se ne ko do de.
And you may not spend too much time while on the pilgrimage. And what I feel more important is, for example, if you go to the Vulture Peak mountain there, just sit down there at a place there and think about all these things that happened in the past. Recall those events that the Buddha was here together with his great disciples of the bhikshus and bodhisattvas. Don't have to exactly pinpoint on which rock that he sat upon. Don't think about those. You don't have to think about those small details there, but try to be in your mind, to be alive in your mind that Buddha and his disciples sat here and discussed about the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. This discourse happened here. And in that way, feeling strongly about that event that happened in the past, and you do your own pujas, some kind of recitation, whatever you do, I think that that's more important than just being there and seeing it and just living it.
지금 가서 다 잠잠로네 둘이서 말해. 근데 제 사자 따간로야 되다. 니건 로야니 띠트 카카레스.
There should be a little difference between just being a tourist and being on a pilgrimage, visiting a sacred site.
그 잠잠로디 가서 소소게 가래 통한 값도 때 내시다고 가래 주는 마음 버시에 주라고 가래 주나 대간트레스 가래 통도 가래 제야레스.
So if you are going as a tourist to see some places, then you just go there and enjoy this, whatever beautiful scene and whatever beautiful places are there. That's it.
Nico Rodi Castle Tendemares, call Loni Tonga Jayanga, that's Sonjek native of Quayandova in the Loni Tonga Jayanga, Kajahigur, so Guruk native Kokandohina, Tedanda, Dauda Loni Tonga Matsik, Kajahigur. That Loni Tong Study Castle, Pemasik, Nico Tarambo Chatter and Jom of Dotare. So, of course, such a rene use I can combat does I can rene. Nananga don't try the Kalakabores. Inaya, Saja Tila. Sanje inaere ngore inaere japan tine tete azoku yuno pejano no yedewana na yabati azoku icheche dena digores tile ton so amang jene so so ti chorto ba tingos ya kap de dik sonanda buji netanda buji ya tanto bate nengar samudus.
But while on a pilgrimage, you're going there as a pilgrimage. For example, if it is sacred sites, the Buddha that happened like more than 2,500 years ago, and if it's sacred sites of Guru Padmasambhava, it's also similar, like more than 2,000 years. So to pinpoint exact spot may not be possible at this time because it's been so long ago. But still, you can have that place there. You can be there at that place. And the important thing is, to think about all these things that happened there, to feel that thing within yourself, and then do some prayers, and then do some aspiration prayers and whatever prayers you're doing to at that time,
Oh yeah, that take out of 100 of years. And Lord
So,
Mabal that
so this is just a side talk. So if it doesn't suits you, you don't have to listen or keep that in mind.
then ma and then tomorrow my bikine data yungures.
So next lines shows about the uncommon introductory of this text.
다 데이체 좀 된데 사모나 제자 최제 나눠진 지 땡엔젤라 넘버 유소스 대양 데이제 종주 삼바 좀 파바 신의 좀 쉐라지 파르도 삼시만이나 넘버 따기 폼보망아 바다라에 롱이 스톰바 넘버 따오스 근데 산지진 대체되다 마샤르비 종주 삼바 좀 파바 신의 좀 주지나 니케지 메소 리지본 강나 샤르비 삼좀 되나 대개 좀 주는 거긴 저도 공항 이런 게 있어 어다 티니마 te karse gorsen deise tomne samna ke join den ba yuso sa ta ta tindike korda tamba da ne pyson so ba nga te ndipi ne ka tela se deise tomden de samona ke ja che namlo tela ani nyamba yuso sonje ta gomkya ne yuso bare se ne ota ti he gores.
So, and the text reads at the middle of the page, number 2. At that point, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi. So at that point means the point at the time we just described above, where all these 5 excellencies has been gathered together at that time. And the Buddha, he entered into the Samadhi, which means he entered into the meditation.
ade tomden de 제당 게 나저게 대바 재미있게 했던다 제소 아니나 안에 sonje gomchembi nega da makam nega ki yobaki dala hegeyo mares.
According to the Mahayana, Mahayana doesn't differentiates between a Buddha entering into the Samadhi and not entering into the Samadhi. There is no distinction like that.
이나야 나저 그 파타노라 근데 sonje gomchembi nega da makembi nega da baki yobaki 차네 다단데 나저 그 통족 on zamj on the chene and hegeres.
But for us as an ordinary beings, it seems to us that Buddha sometimes enter into some samadhi and sometimes it doesn't. So according to our ordinary perception, this has been written here that says that the Blessed One entered the samadhi.
시다 sonje 아니 garantezo 냠도 ndiunde 가서 쳐게 돌랭다 버튼이 제거디 sonje 냠바리가 비그 수마템 바이나 아니 저하다 도바 가래가 바이나야 sonje를 휴고하다 버지 차디게레스.
When Buddha is together with the disciples, if anything or any discussions of any questions arises, it will go directly to Buddha if he's not into the samadhi.
단단딜라 안에 sonje 냠야라 니비기 추때네 유도 디갑라 안에 sonje라 카투 좋아가서 영무야 말했어.
But since here at this time, Buddha has entered into the samadhi, so therefore people cannot ask a question directly to Buddha at that time.
디비 존생라 때니 안에 손제 사모 나와 시자비 제주 나도 된 사모 세야 되게 단다 건데 해봤나 이제 유동이 저다 내루기 차디게 제거래 노와 시자와서 때게 유캔 아 땡중 그때한테 해용해야 돼 대치대 가서 똥 땡중 숭둥 유비기 안에 냠갈라 안에 네스레스 아치 기기 거래서
And here, Shakyamuni Buddha entered into the samadhi, into the meditation stage, and that samadhi is called the profound illumination. The profound refers to the emptiness, and illumination refers to the dependent origination. So he is in the deep meditative state on the emptiness and dependent origination.
대치디 가서 손제 견제바 간다 칸템바이나야 yendan 바히 이운데 임바치 차고요래 대치디 가서 갑대디 간온다 다 정주 셈바다 손제 저기 품비 레이젤라 딱기도 뉴우드 가서 코리 검자네 유야바 이나야 아니 셰레지데 샤리푸니 트와틀렌치 비크 토니 노텐 중이여바 아니 네 yendan 주로와 아니 툴라 야체네 아니 손제 검자네 유소아 차고요레스
Buddha, whatever he does, and everything is being for the benefit of all sentient beings. Here too, even though Buddha is entering into samadhi, he knows that due to his samadhi, entering into samadhi, this discourse will happen between the between the Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara. So, and in that way, he is doing the benefits of other beings.
tene yang deitse chongju samba 좀 봐봐 시에는 좀 셔라지 바로서 좀 사미셔바니나 나바타 히세디 가솔 양 세아데게 좀 된데 냥가라 유바자 마즈네 아니 chongju samba 좀 봐봐 시에는지 온추야 셔라지 바로서 좀 사미셔바니라 아니 냠야도 네스레 네바레에세 히고레스.
And the next line says that, and at that same time, not only the Shakyamuni Buddha, but also the Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, he is also into the samadhi, practicing the profound paramita, that is profound perfection of wisdom. So wisdom.
다 정주 셈바 사데 다 장주 밤 산제 공포 터비게도라 담차 템보에 비겠니 바오 셈 장주 셈바스 셈바 켐보사데 니 장주 셈바 임바잔도 마제니 아니 코 사주발 라소바데니게 라니바데조라 셈바 켐보스네 이렇게 거래서 디치디 샤네지데 장주 셈바 임바잔 마제니 사주발니 비게 파바인 비케니 장주 셈바 켐보스네 라고레스.
And here the line reads, at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva. Mahasattva means great bodhisattvas. So Avalokiteshvara is not just a bodhisattva. Bodhisattva, he is a great bodhisattva. Bodhisattva can be, just a bodhisattva who has just reached that first level of bhumi, whatever that is, But Mahabodhisattva refers to not just on the lower stages, he is up there on the highest stages of the path, which is here, Avalokiteshvara, he's on the 10th stages, on the 10th bhumi. So that's why he refers to here as the Mahasattva or the great Bodhisattva.
The Sharon Z said the Gasso Shanchi Z Deva Sigor, Karet Zigorasana, Sankanam, Niba the Dungal, Jule, Judele, Kaditana, Sambike, Kaditatuna Sambike, Tedeke, and Nitan Tutu the Tele Gonchine, and the Gato Sankana Z division in Latini, Shanezi, Senatin Gajigoris.
This name Avalokiteshvara, in Tibetan we have the Chandra 6, which means looking after with his eyes, looking after all the sentient beings, welfare of all the sentient beings, whether day or night doesn't matter. He looks all the time for the benefit of all sentient beings.
The Onchu Sevate 아니 덴데기 나조기 샘켄테 조게 파 갈세고래 아 펜랜드 네바 자발라서 바게 나조기 네체다 바치라고 가르잖아요 딜라 니금다 동알라 마테바 드니 라와도 토비차네 완축 세네게 지시고르스
And Avalokiteshvara, Teshvara, Tesh, that means Wangchuk in Tibetan means power. He has this power no matter what kind the beings responded back with, even his negative responded back, he won't be put down by their reactions. He has this kind of power.
네 샤라지 바로도 좀 사미셔바니라 나바타히 세우디 가솔라 드니 안난다 당기 공도 휴반나 이지는 유셰진다 아니 람셰지 되죠 아니 게 냠래 간에 제거야 봐 무슨 체미 토니 사나버지 무슨 나기거레스
So practicing the profound Pranjaparamita, profound perfection of wisdom, as this means, as explained earlier about the natural perfection of wisdom and the path perfection of wisdom. You can refer to this here, and this is being practiced by the Avalokiteshvara at that time.
근데 대장도 맞으네 아니 풍봉하고 대달라인 롱이죠 또 만나봤다고 세디가서 풍봉하고 대다 세디가서 풍봉하다 감종이 현재종이다 감쪽질라서 봐 너나 너희 저 탐지 땡진 대원 중에 니루 사미기다 기타와기도 체네 대기다라 아니 고마 대바레스
And the next line reads, he saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. That's the 5 aggregates. And not only the 5 aggregates, but also the 12 sources of perceptions and 18 elements. All of these he looks at as the empty nature and with the dependent origination and emptiness, profound emptiness here looks all these skandhas that aggregates or the sources of perceptions or the 18 elements.
네. 대는 상지 진투 제대된 바 샤리비 존주 삼바 좀 봐봐 신의 온줄한데 게 메소서. 근데 갑대디라 네 손제게 제랍 톨라 때네 네 제대된 바 제대요 봐. 샤리포게 아니 존주 삼바 좀 봐봐 신의즈라 네 치바레세네. 다시 당 샤리포사데 아니 샤랍게 초도 줘봐 샤리포세네. 라왕 그 토네 저와 거나야 그 초반하고 지나야 안에 가서보다 손지게 토암 제랄 때네 아니 미세게 다 체진기다 냠내 간이 제거야 바텐데 그 삼로지 제시네 아니 셴네지 그때도 손제 냠별라 내자 셴네지라 아니 저와가 바차르레스.
And the next page, top line reads, then through the power of Buddha, so due to the power or the blessings of Buddha, the Shariputra has begun to ask noble Avalokiteshvara. Although Shariputra, he is considered as the supreme among the disciples of the Buddha, has the supreme wisdom, so he can kind of ask this question himself, but here this question is asked by the power or the blessing of the Buddha. Since Buddha is in the samadhi, entered into the samadhi, see, he asked this question to the noble Avalokiteshvara.
뜻이 가서래 단다 윤데 샤리보다 셰네지니 드와 텔랭 토네 아니 윤데게 랭게데 중이 존생을 때니 아니 샤리보다 셰네지니 보테 드와 텔랭 제하게 네소데니 윤야테 아니 도마 많이 비게 랭게다 보지 니 윤데노는 중앙지 차디고 그랬어.
Since this text is a discourse or a question and answer between Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, so this introductory or the context here is an uncommon one, because this is uncommon to this text. This is how this text was being taught or being happened.
다 되게 돈이 다 될라 밖에 야는 리메도 다데 게 토몽 길레기다 토몽 많이 빌레기 디니 조체네 다 융을라야 레기다 융을다 tenjo ke yu sum ye binoni len yi ke remate tomo mai ba ni ke noni chawares.
So this ends this section of the uncommon introductory of the text. Among the introduction, we have the general introduction and this uncommon introduction of the context, how this text was being taught.
어때지 가서래 간다에 윤때 손제 그 샤는 거 숨바 차고야 말에 샤레지다 좀 샤리 분위기 되었는 제발을 때는 중앙 차고요래 얘나야 손제 그가 차되고요 가르스나 손제 그가 되라 샤는 숨비가 진질라비가 예수놈이가 세는 송이 비노니 네 진질라비가 차되고래서.
So this text actually was not uttered from the mouth of the Buddha. This text is a discourse between Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, but it's still considered as the teaching of the Buddha because within the words of the Buddha, we have different categories. That first one is the words, those texts or those discourses directly uttered from the mouth of the Buddha. And then we have this those texts that has been blessed by the Buddha, or those texts which has been commanded by the Buddha or has given the permission by the Buddha. So among these one, this is considered as a sutra or the words of the Buddha as a blessed by the Buddha.
그다음에 진질라비 까틀라야 꾸이 진질라바 송 진질라바 투 진질라바 써야 돼. 근데 투 진질라바 손제 투 아니 사모토만 이기 달라 냠바 야도디 가서라니 샤레즈다 샤리보니 도아틀렌 중에 준탄라 때네 아니 투 진질라비 가서니 뭐지 증거레스.
Among the blessed sutras, we have this blessed by the body or speech or the mind. Among these three, this is considered as the blessed by the mind, because at that time, Buddha has been entered into the samadhi of the profound illumination samadhi at that time. So through that profound samadhi, this has been blessed. So it is considered as blessed by his mind sutra.
다 니마 다 좋아지는 돈이 용을 내가지고 차고야 돼. 대체디 아니 다 들어가서 될 샤군스.
And we will stop here, and from next session, the actual text, we will go through that. That's between the Shariputra asking questions and the noble Avalokiteshvara responding to his questions.
Okay. 다 좋아요나. 가시스.
We have few questions from yesterday in the Zoom chat. Actually, I have 4 questions here. And the first one was, for the newcomers, which of the Sutra and Shastra should one get to study? Suggest on the path of study and practice. Sarbuva Sola, ani dodan tenju kari jangna yaga enas. Ani di kala orda lamla nyamlin chiya da jangyak tola ya kari yaga enas.
다 사부이나 더 맞아 제밥 하대 때도 장나 빼야버려서 아니 림베긴도 아니 저런 잔톰나 융참바라고 잔토나 전주라고 되는 장나야 버려서.
For the actual newcomers, actual brand new kind of thing, So maybe it's good if you start with the Vishishtava. That is a short text about the superior qualities of the Buddha. So maybe good to start from there. And also good one is to study the Bodhicharya Avatara, the Bodhisattva's way of life by Shantideva. And the second question is, can we take one's own guru as the root lama if he is recognized as one's own father in the past life? Susuk tsawe lama di, susuk lama di, susuk tsawe lama la, ke lana digri ves, di susuk tsengoma ki papa yinaya.
Kanise?
Susuk tsengoma ki papa yinaya, susuk lama di. Di tsawe lama la ngunzi shina digri ves, susuk ke lana.
Tsenditu la tsawi lama sucha sona ti tsawi lama che dana ngunzin dan rigres. Chewa ngama la kare imi nga tuk chaba jat tachi tu tu mare la goya iyo mares.
Whoever your root lama in this lifetime, you can take that as your own root lama. You don't have to go into your past life. And it is also very hard or almost impossible to investigate or check about the past life. Sumba. Third one, why do we study Sutra and Shastra if we get introduced to the nature of mind in the start of the Dzogchen? Dzogba chimbu nalaya semgote sana dodan tenjo karchin jango gores.
Tati santong gaji chagu yores. Tati kandire na nga zo la one church jendro da onto tepi jendrons. Onpo tulpo sena yendra Konza riki la pe masik losa tempo ki lapsan takarang taje tunge ki miki yores. Te mir pe kompores tati. Tende ki lapsan zonde ike taji do chene taje tunge ko ke tubna naya kochini mendenge taje tunge miki yona. Ane mampo majang yana digre lama ke karesumba takarang ke la taje ne gomdo yana digres.
We can think about this in two different ways, kind of thing. Generally talking within the Buddhism, we have this talking about one who goes by the faith and one who goes by the studying of scriptures, right? So different scriptures and using one's own mind in doing these things. And if you have the complete 100% faith in whatever your teacher says, and it's irreversible, even at the cost of your own life. That's very rare though. If you have that kind of irreversible faith in your own teacher, then whatever the teacher says, you follow it 100%. For that kind of person, you may not need to study too many things.
Pena kombachi no la choron gonda chi nyega bache. Ane teno la choron brut jinrowa de thong. Ina ya ane tis je la chokwa chi ke lapche ne. O teno dru mepa zo chayin choron nyede lan de ngi dru mepa dru yu chayin choron lele chen nyede ngale yichi che se ne. Ane choron ko laban na yichi ni yichi che ne nye togu ya na. Ane ndride yores kola yichi le ke togu do na. ane choron dru kechi toba ne jaya ke toba de yong mar choron lo debo chene lele chene nye togu res. O te na yi chene lama ke kansu ba tagaran to lo taje togu ya na te ndride res. Robo ke laba te taje togu ya na tagaran ndride yores.
If, for example, in your room, in your house, in any house, right? In a house, you see a snake going there, and you're very afraid of that snake, and then later on your friend came and tell you that, oh, I already, get rid of that snake. You can, sleep very sound. You can have a very sound sleep in your room. Don't worry. I already, get rid of that one. So if you can believe your friend and you can able to sleep in that room without checking any further, then you're good. You can completely rely on that. In the same way, if a teacher teaches you and gives some instruction or the nature of mind instruction as here in the point, and you can completely decide it upon that thing with 100% faith, 100% relying on that thing, then you may be okay. You may not have to study other things.
Tena yi choron tende ke 공 어쩌지기 돈에 저런 그 초로야 그 내수지 깨져 해왔잖아. 라마테야 디 못해야 그 냠뇽다 아니 코 냠도 영이지 라가야 내가 자거랬어. 데 마이나 아니 저런 루시 노르시 그랬어. 페나 코 트로볼에 이체는 디게어데 트로보 땡에스 두파 땡에게 마비 미싱이지 그거라서 어떤 아버지랬어.
And also, very important thing is you also need a lama who is really a realized and who knows these things inside and out, kind of, like the one, your friend who told you that you get rid of this thing, he should be actually, in actuality, he should have gotten rid of that snake from there. In the same way, you should have a lama who introduces you to the nature of mind himself or herself a realized master.
어따때 되네 그리데 고 소적이 이체 도야다 나마 된데 라야데 백감보 차거레스 되네지 용나 안 다가랑 근디디어레스.
For that kind of thing, would the disciple who has 100% faith and devotion to his own lama, and a lama who is a fully realized one, if you have that kind of thing, which is very rare though, then it's okay. You don't have to study any further.
되네 마주아이나 나 소소 소종 마포지 제제네 베나 콤바트는 로반 통사레 아니 저런 게 따제제네 소소 로마데바도 타마제바도라 아니 제제네 근데 매바 소소게 샘띠니 이제 띵시바지 차서서 아니나 아니 소소로 되버지는 예초와 나기 전에 아니 로종 마기 아니 년태게 대바니 리메이긴도 로종 제네 아니 타쳐바 제네 아니 고직 내룰라지 삼노타와이나 아니 저런 로라 태존매바 네 용토야지 자거레스.
And if that's not the case, then you have to really check whether your friend really got rid of that snake or not. In the same way, you have to study down from the teachings of the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, which is about the Shravakayana, and all the study from there, and then to the Madhyamikas and all the different texts, so that you understand all the different teachings, that things, so that you don't have any kind of doubt. So that's the reason why we have to study too much here.
제디 가서 저런 그 로종 제네 안에 즉그 타쳐버지 마주나 안에 콜헬레 데디디 가서도 도바쳐 대나 버지여래 근데 검 제네 고 샘기 라이야 생기 니루다 유기 니루 가네레세네 디토라 판 검제네 삼노동의 기대고 대군디 가서 오다 대야 가네이나 대야 가네스니까 도반나도 모르모르 로야지 아니 타쳐마서 가지 용 그랬어 되니 제소나 네 지금 말했을 때 지리가 설령 아주 법정 뭐지 제네 소속은 타쳐가지 좋다고 해야 돼 내가 참 잘 그랬어.
If you don't study, or if you really don't do meditation, if you just leave it as it is, then you may think that I know things, I don't have any doubts. You may have that kind of thinking. But if you really study, or if you really do the meditations, then you will come across like, oh, this something is coming like this, or what it is, then all these kinds of doubts arises, then you need to study. That's for that reason that you need to study to get rid of all these doubts.
근데 아주 라다지 검디가스를 하고 그랬어. 저런 라디 검그레스 디가서 롭 잔체나 안내 라딘데 오게 방간 예차를 군 예차를 라디 검견을 내라분도 some 차그레스. 이나 라디 검통지 그 세마창 작게나바데 십시 차와는 뭐저 뭐 처음에나 근데 특히 검내 림바 이도 마치 검우디 도제데 야가 거대나 마가 거대나 샤디 데 간데나 된 레레카디 검우디 가서네 도파데 검디 가서 검마토와체 도파노를 데데야지 차용です. 그래서 들어와서 들어와는 뒤에서 zon다지 용です. 되나보지です.
For example, if you have to do a meditation upon a deity, you may think, oh, I can do that because I see that deity, the thanga of that, or the statue of that deity all the time. I can do that meditation. But when you're actually doing that meditation, then when you're going on the details of those, the deity, or how he is sitting or he or she is sitting, how that deity is holding the vajra, whether it's upwards or downwards, or what is the color of this and that. So then you have all these kinds of doubts arises, and actually you may not able to go into the meditation at all. You can just have these doubts being there in that session.
너 데려다보 인디가서는 아니 로존 제가 자고로 데리게 공사 리만다 니 연구여레스 어떤 sometimes 지레스.
So that's why we need to study. So we have to think about these two kinds of two categories of people. The first one, who has 100% faith and devotion and realized master, and the other one, they need to be study and to practice there and study, more. This is the last fourth question. Is love and compassion in us because of defense mechanism of brain? Otherwise, we are all going crazy. 참다 닝제디 nganzuki lebaki sungkyup chedabji rebes. Di menang utu sama nyobar chadu res. 참다 닝제디 ki kala orang orang su ki leba sungkyup chungengi jabaji lakcharu chaga yorbes. 다 간식 거야 가르 구구에 나야지. 거와 다다시 lemma서.
네, 다 잠도 니제 때문에 나좀 참바다고 자기를 왜서는.
녀버도 차도 살았어.
대바제 자그리세는 디바지레스. 잠도 니제 그 사반 체중레마도 잠도 니제 맹에게 아니 sentenje nga zon changi marawa chires tichidi ka sule chanda ninje mesungna dele chi chando sibare se ate nga zo dokba chena digres ka sene chanda ninje mengeke ko saban ta chi chu chechunre ma do chanda ninje tsani mengeke sentenje nga zo misiba inza de mesungna chi cha sibare se ate nga zo dokba chena digres.
Maybe you can have that kind of doubt if we don't have this love and compassion, that we may go crazy or we may go anything, because it's only a degree of degree. Otherwise, every beings has this love and compassion. It's only a degree of how much, Otherwise, we cannot find any beings, living beings, without the love and compassion. So with that, we can, say that if you don't have that one, something else can happen, like, we can go crazy or whatever that.
tichidi so that menanga zoke ko tumra chen ta da ziza la so ba te zo chen ya ga de te zo ina ya koron ke pu da de la ta cham se ya ba de nga zoke ko ngo so thon to ba chi cha ga res.
So when we talk really about with no love and compassion, normally talk about the lions and tigers, those wild animals, but even those fierce wild animals have the love and compassion towards their own offsprings.
Yeah. 다 가르쳐서 되저 노는 사래.
더 맛있지 봐.
먼저 저거 가시 얘도 도다도 아니나 되저디 까망았어 봐. 그러면
야.
좋아.
We have more question from the chat box. Dorje, can you read it?
Okay. What is that one? From chat box, is mind out of body and thoughts are matter inside our brain? And is empty mind is getting touch with the true mind? And what is awareness? Is it some kind of bridge or link between thoughts and mind? Or is it for survival because all animals have some kind of awareness? I don't know. What's the question? Is mind out of body and thoughts are matter? 샘디 속부기 출로 된스나 그 뱀부 랑시를 뱃을 거였어요.
Same Quran
And is empty mind is getting touch with the true mind? I don't know what's empty mind and true mind means.
It's question from Lakpa Nagi. So, Lakpa, can you unmute yourself and clarify your question?
What mean? 타카르세다. 대제와데. 냐바냐바 지레다.
타카시 먹지 디버션 바스틸라스 지와 튀기지라.
다때 세가서 나서 남시데 파탄도 디가솔레 아니 파시 파돌로 야그러와. 다때 파돌로 디가솔레 파돌라코 나초케 탄다케 조포나이 아니 토체케 나바 토레케 나바 던데케 라파치 메나야 아니 타와 아니 바디케 가세거때 다미키 주케 류치 years 어떤다 버지 세금이로 된다 버지 삼당이야지 버지.
So if we're getting this question correct, if is mind out of body and thoughts are matter, so when the mind is out of our body, it leaves this body, so then it enters into the partho state, intermediate state. At that time, the mind doesn't have a tangible body just like ours, like a gross body like that, but still it has some kind of a subtle kind of body.
네? 타자서
Okay, so now the time is up, so we will keep all these questions for tomorrow. So now it is time for conclusion. But before this conclusion, the dedication, I have some announcement. So some of our friends, they asked us the Zoom ID and the Zoom information, the link. I think some of them, they didn't register it. And we didn't share with those who requested because of the it's required registration. So therefore we didn't share it. It does not mean that we don't want to share with all of you, but since we made it this system, that requirement of registration, and therefore we are only sending to links and IDs to those who registered. So that please, and that's why that we have this system. So please just pay respect. And if you are really interested, you can do registered to get all these teachings. I don't really get it why you're hesitating to register it. Kind of like a instead registration, just registered, and then you can get it automatically. You don't need to ask like a private question like this. And the second thing that also we have some issue about the receiving the Zoom link and ID. Some of our registered person, they didn't receive it. Some of that kind of issue is also there. And I really apologize to those that who didn't receive it, the link and IDs after doing registration. Sometimes the blue host that we are sending this mass email, the group, and sometimes it's failing some of the recipient to receive the email. So in the future, if that kind of things happened after you did registration, still you didn't receive it, and you can directly to send us email to the center, and we can directly send you the link and Zoom ID to you. That when we're sending to the group and that happening, I know myself too, this is maybe the systems issue, or sometimes it happening. Why it is really happening, I didn't really understood it so far. So I apologize for that. And at the same time, I also how to say, wants you all guys to know that the normally whatever we have this kind of event program teaching and whatsoever, we are sending all the links and ID informations 3 days ahead of the time. So after how to say, when is within this 3 days, if you don't receive it, then you can send us email directly, so we can send you in a separate way directly, so you will not going to miss it. And also, please, I will request all of you in a future reference that please register ahead of the time. And some of the registrant that we are receiving like even half an hour before about teaching begin. So this is a little bit a challenge for us to able to share the link and IDs within this period, because when it's getting close to the teachings, then we need to prepare all this Zoom link, and we need to check sound system, everything we need to make sure, so we don't really have a kind of like, it is taking lots of energies for us to work out. So could you please at least that 1 day before, that no later than 1 day before, if you all guys can register it for the future whatsoever you have interested to participate, and then please share this to all your friends as well. Actually they're not receiving emails. I don't think that here all of you received it, our link and ID. That's why you are here. The person who doesn't receive it, they are not in this participation. I'm sorry for that. But if you know each other, that you can tell this what I how to say, requested today. And then on the other thing that I would like to announce, our great Kenshin Sawan Jamso, that will going to teach in Texas Center from April 17 and 18, and their local time, the Texas, what do you call it, Austin? Is it Austin? Yeah, Texas Austin. Their local time, morning 8:30 to 10:30, both April 17 and 18. And then also same month, April 24 and 24 and 25th of April, the same time. Local time is 8:30 to 10:30, which means the Texas hour is 1 hour later than us. So please, and if any of you wants have interested to participate in listen to our great Kenshin's teaching, the teaching is about Sutra recalling the exalted of three jewels. That is the teaching we're going to held in our Payu, Texas Dharma Center. The website, the palri.org, as you are seeing on the screen, that info@palri.org. You can find out all the information about the upcoming teaching. So, okay, this is all I want to let everybody know. And thank you so much. So this weekend we will stop here, and then we will continue next weekend from Friday evening and onwards. So now please dedicate this meritorious for the sake of sentient beings, that whatsoever we accumulated through this meritorious activity of teaching and listening Dharma. So we can read this Tibetan and then later English together. So all people, we can read together. Sonam de Thamje Sivan Thomne Nyebe Dranam Thamje Me Chega Nanje Walan Tubai Sibin Solen Doan Shu Jambal Bawe Jidara Kimba Kundu Zombo Dean Dejen De Teda Kunje Jesu Daloche Gewan De Da Thamje Rabdomo Gewan De Yeshe Okun Sanam Yeshe Todone Sanam Yeshe Lechonve Tamba Kunyin Tabarasho Sanje Kusum Nyebe Chinlanda Chenye Mingyur Dembe Chinlanda Gendin Meche Dembe Chinlaki Jidramo Amandubarsho. Read in English together. By this beneficial activity, may I obtain omniscience, and having vanquished the harmful enemies, greed, anger, delusion, may I liberate all beings tossed about helplessly by the wave of birth, aging, illness, and death in the ocean of becoming. By conforming to the knowledge of courageous Manjushri, Jambalyang, and in the same way as Samindabhadra, Kundusambo, and following their example, I dedicate perfectly all this virtue. By this virtue, may all beings perfectly achieve the accumulation of merit, Sonam, and wisdom, Eshe, and may they thereafter obtain the two holy bodies, which result from this two accumulation. By the blessing of the Buddha, Sangye, who obtained the three bodies, by the blessing of the immutable truth of the Dharmata, Chunyi, by the blessing of the infallible aspiration of the Sangha, Gendin, may this prayer of dedication be accomplished just as it is. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care and have a good night. And thank you so much for Karen Burche. And see you next weekend. Close.